The big political news, as you heard at the bottom of the hour, Mayor Chris Coleman of St. Paul has decided that he is not going to be seeking the DFL nomination for governor and will not be running for governor. We have the pleasure of having the mayor on the line with us right now. Mayor Chris Coleman, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you and good evening.
Good evening, sir. This is a decision that you apparently just reached recently, correct?
Well, one of the things that we had said is we wanted to make a decision before the November election so that the voters in St. Paul, as I was seeking re-election, knew exactly what my intentions were. And so as we came closer to that, I weighed the challenges that we faced and the opportunities that we have in the city of St. Paul, and decided that I needed to focus my attention on what's happening in St. Paul.
There's a lot on your plate there.
Well, we do have some great things going on, but still some hurdles to clear. The Central Corridor Light Rail Line, which has been number one priority for me for a long time, has still some work to do on it, and I would hate to think that somehow that project wouldn't move forward because I was out running for governor, and there just simply was no way for me to effectively do both.
Okay. Well, let me just ask what the reaction was you got out on the campaign trail when you were testing the waters for running for governor. What were people telling you?
Well, really, really positive, and I think that's been part of the struggle in my decision is because as I called through folks that were regular convention attendees or key members of the labor community or just whatever it may be, there was very, very supportive words and encouragement for me to run. And in almost everyone that I talked to, they felt that I was, if I wasn't their automatic first choice, I was in their top 2 or 3, and that's all you can really ask for at this stage of the game. And so, felt that I had as good of a shot as I was ever going to have to do that. But I just I made a commitment 4 years ago to the voters of St. Paul, and I'm asking them to make a commitment to me again, and felt that was more important at this point.
You said this is you thought this was the best shot you might have to do something like this. Does this mean that you're not going to be seeking the governor's office in the future, or is that very hard to say at this point?
No, I'm not. I don't preclude anything. I didn't expect to be running for governor in 2005, or I didn't expect to be running for mayor in 2005. But felt very passionately that the city needed to go in a different direction, and so. Chose to run at that point, and so what the future holds, I guess only time will tell.
Well, that of course then begs the question. Everything is politics. The DFL is a very political group. There are a lot of people vying for the DFL endorsement for governor. Have you decided if you are going to back anyone, or is that again too early to say?
Well, I'll be backing the endorsed candidate of the DFL party. I think we need to unify around the convention in April and put forth a candidate that can win in the fall. And I think the longer we spend our time shooting at each other, the harder that's going to be. But I think it's very clear that any of the candidates that are running on the DFL side are marked improvements from the Republican side. I didn't know that there were 9 people in the state of Minnesota that didn't understand the serious nature of climate change, and they all seem to be running for governor.
I think there are more than that who don't understand climate change, but yes, they do all seem to be running for governor. I do have to ask, though, you have had a chance to test the waters, you've had a chance to hear the voters, you've heard, you've talked to the people who would very likely be the delegates to any kind of convention. What do you think they're looking for in a candidate? I mean, we said we're not going to name names here, but what qualities do you think they want?
Well, I think that first and foremost, they want to win. You have 20 years since the last Democratic governor was serving in the corner office of the Capitol, and so people are very, very hungry to have someone that can unify the party, unify progressives and labor, and put that winning coalition together and win in the fall. But then, beyond the victory, that's when the work begins. So, who can get beyond the rhetoric and the partisanship that you sometimes see up at the Capitol? Who can make some of the tough decisions? Who is really going to balance out the fact that you've got a potential $7 billion budget deficit in the city of St. Paul? In the state of Minnesota. And there's going to be some really tough choices that are going to have to be made in order to get out of that. And are people going to have a seat at the table when those decisions are being made? I think that's one of the things that we've been very, very proud of in St. Paul was that, we brought our public employees to the table to help us work out some of the challenges. We brought community groups to the table. People demand that process. They want to be a part of that decision-making, and so they're looking for a candidate that understands that.
Well, let's talk about then the issues that you're facing here in St. Paul. You have got, which is the reason that you're not going to run. You got to focus on what's in front of you. Light rail, you said, is one of the bigger issues. I listened to part of the debate the other night where your opponent was saying it's all too expensive, and we should. In fact, I think she even suggested that we should run things underground, which would make it even more expensive. Where do things sit here with light rail?
Well, first of all, after 30 years of discussion, we're very, very close to officially moving forward. We've actually begun some of the construction on some key components in downtown, and it's very exciting. But there are some hurdles. There are some issues that need to be worked out with respect to the mitigation at the University of Minnesota. That is, at this point is probably the largest impediment to getting funding from the federal government. The second piece of it is the challenges of making sure that the business community that exists along University Avenue is protected, and that the steps that we take enhance the quality of the businesses, don't detract from that. So some challenges and some hurdles that need to be overcome, but it's an incredible opportunity, and it only gets more expensive the longer you wait. So any suggestion that St. Paul is not ready for first-class transportation network just misses the point.
I have one question about light rail, and I think your opponent raised it the other night, which is we have a set of rails just to the north of the corridor that we're going to be running the light rail on University Avenue. Is anybody seriously looking at that corridor instead of taking University Avenue, and if not, why not?
Well, there's been 30 years of looking at various options. We've looked at in the past Burlington Northern Pierce Butler alignment, which is, I think, what the reference was to.
Right.
We looked at the 94 Avenue corridor, and when you're making those decisions, there's a couple of factors that are critical. First of all, what's the ridership going to be? It doesn't help you to have a line going through a place where no one lives and no one can live, and so the Pierce Butler or the Burlington Northern corridor really wouldn't serve very many folks. And the 94 corridor really doesn't have the ability to impact economic development and other opportunities like the University Avenue alignment. So this is really, everyone can second guess, but 30 years of studying and discussion about the alignment of this line, I think, have made it very clear that the University Avenue alignment is the best way to go.
Okay. And one last question here about the governor's race before we let you go. Do you have any words of advice to the remaining candidates in the DFL race on what they should do?
Well, listen, the one thing that I've had an opportunity to do is to get to know even better the folks that are running and considering running. I have tremendous respect for them, and at the end of the day, they've just got to run hard, and they've got to give their all. They've got to give 110% to this thing, because you can't. It doesn't do any good to do it 90% of the way. You've got to do it 100% of the way, and you've got to be able to unify folks at the end of the day. So I would hope that people would go fight hard for the endorsement, and at the end of the day, honor that process. The DFLers, sometimes we like to get in circular firing squads, and I think that would be a tremendous mistake, because the state can't afford another 4 years of the philosophy that's governed it for the last 8.
It's been a train wreck so far, so I certainly agree with you. Mayor Chris Coleman, thank you so much for joining us today on a very, very busy day for you, and spending some time with our listeners talking about your decision.
Always appreciate it, and keep on your good work.
Okay, thank you. That is Mayor Chris Coleman, who again today announced that he is he is one of the few people who is not running for governor on the DFL side, and is instead going to focus on the city.